When you truly trust quantum physics, strange things happen. This sentence isn't just a provocative title, it's a key that unlocks dimensional portals in your everyday reality. Imagine for a moment that everything you've learned about cause and effect, about linear time, about the apparent solidity of things around you, was only half the story. The other half, the part that quantum science reveals, is so extraordinary that most people prefer to ignore it, relegating it to distant laboratories, to experiments with subatomic particles that seem to have nothing to do with paying bills, healing relationships, or manifesting abundance. But what if I told you there's a simple secret almost no one practices? A secret that transforms passive observers into conscious architects of reality? Today, you will discover how a deep trust in quantum principles is not a vague mystical belief, but a technology of consciousness that actively reshapes the fabric of your experience. If this resonates with something inside you, if you feel that subtle shiver that indicates a truth is being touched, do something simple now. Like this video as a pact with yourself that you are ready for this journey. Science is no longer confined to the materialistic paradigms of the last century. Delft University in 2015 demonstrated something that should have shaken the foundations of our collective understanding: quantum entanglement between two diamonds, macroscopic, visible, tangible objects. We are no longer talking about invisible electrons dancing in probabilities. We are talking about objects you could hold in your hands, instantly connected across space in ways that defy all Newtonian logic. And there's more. The quantum Zeno effect, studied by the University of Texas in the same year, proved that continuous observation can literally freeze the evolution of a quantum system. Think about that. Your attention, your focused consciousness, is not an irrelevant epiphenomenon emerging from chemical reactions in the brain. It is a force that interacts with the fundamental field of reality. When you truly understand this, when you trust this at the deepest level of your being, the universe begins to respond in ways that seem to violate the rules of the game you thought you were playing. Let me introduce an image that will accompany our journey today. Imagine reality as a vast cosmic fabric of potentials, an infinite tapestry woven with threads of pulsating light, each thread representing a possibility not yet manifested. Your consciousness is the needle of light that chooses which threads to pull into existence. When you deeply trust the quantum nature of reality, your needle not only selects, it magnetizes, it infuses the threads with a vibrational coherence that pulls them from the realm of possibilities into the world of tangible experience. This is not cheap poetry. It is a precise metaphorical description of how the collapse of the wave function operates when mediated by observing consciousness. Do you know that feeling of being stuck in a loop? Waking up every day with the same financial worries, the same relationship patterns, the same limitations that seem set in stone? This is the first limiting pattern we need to dissolve: the illusion of solid reality. Most people live as if the world is made of immovable bricks, when in fact it is more like a cloud of probabilities, constantly reorganizing itself. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to live in a different universe, where opportunities appear out of nowhere, where synchronicities are as common as breathing? Think about that time you were absolutely sure something bad was going to happen, and it did. Now, think about that other time you had an inexplicable certainty that everything would work out, even against all evidence, and it did. What changed were not the initial external circumstances. What changed was the observer, you, and the quality of your observation. When you stop fighting the apparent solidity of things and start dancing with their fluid and responsive nature. When you take a deep breath right now and feel your chest expand, visualizing every cell of your body connected to an infinite field of potentials, something shifts. Rigidity dissolves. The impossible becomes merely the yet to be observed. If this idea is starting to awaken something in you, comment one word: fluid. Let that word be your declaration that you are willing to let go of rigidity, the anxiety that corrodes your mornings. That feeling that something is always about to go wrong is another pattern that keeps you trapped in a limited reality. Do you know the cruel irony of anxiety? It is a distorted form of trust. You trust so deeply that something bad will happen, that your personal quantum field begins to organize probabilities in that direction. It's as if you're using your needle of light in the cosmic fabric of potentials to obsessively stitch together the darkest, densest, heaviest threads. Have you ever noticed how anxious people seem to attract exactly what they fear? It's not cosmic punishment, it's misdirected quantum physics. Think about that situation where you were so worried about something that you ended up creating the problem that didn't exist. That argument you rehearsed 1,000 times in your head that ended up happening exactly as you imagined. That problem at work that you anticipated for weeks, and that precisely materialized. Now imagine reversing that equation. Imagine applying the same intensity of focus, the same consistency of attention, but directed towards positive potentials. Place your hands over your heart now. Feel the pulse. This rhythm is not just biological, it is quantum. Every beat sends electromagnetic waves into the field around you. When you align this rhythm with gratitude, as if what you desire is already reality, you are not pretending. You are doing quantum engineering. You are using the most powerful electromagnetic generator in your body to transmit a coherent signal to the universe. The transition from anxiety to trust is not an impossible leap. It is a shift in frequency, and frequencies can be adjusted. If you are feeling this adjustment happen now, subscribe to the channel. Let this be your commitment to this new frequency. There is a silent epidemic sweeping our society, the fragmented mind syndrome. You think one thing, feel another, and act in a completely different third way. This incoherence is not just psychologically uncomfortable, it is quantically catastrophic. When your thoughts, emotions, and actions are misaligned, you are sending contradictory signals to the quantum field. It's like trying to tune a radio by frantically spinning the dial in all directions. You only pick up static. How do you expect the universe to respond to a request that you yourself cannot clearly define? Remember that time you said you wanted change, but you kept making the exact same choices every day? Or when you stated you deserved abundance, but secretly felt guilty for wanting more? This type of internal division creates what quantum physicists would call decoherence. Your waves of possibility cancel each other out instead of amplifying. The antidote is personal quantum coherence. This means aligning thought, emotion, and action in a single direction. When you think abundance, feel abundance, and act from abundance. Even when your bank account says otherwise, you create what scientists call phase coherence. Your waves amplify. The signal gets stronger. The field responds. Relax your jaw now. Release your shoulders. Let your spine gently lengthen. Imagine energy flowing effortlessly from the top of your head to your feet and spreading into the environment around you. This is not just a relaxation technique. It is a practice of quantum coherence. When you remove physical tensions, you remove energetic resistances. The flow is reestablished. The magic begins. The next invisible prison is the tyranny of linear time. You have been conditioned to believe that cause precedes effect, that the past determines the present, that the future is an inevitable consequence of the now. But quantum physics reveals a much more extraordinary truth. Time is a navigable dimension, not a one-way mechanical treadmill. At the quantum level, particles can be in multiple temporal states simultaneously. Effects can precede causes. The future can influence the past. This is not science fiction. It is documented science. So why do you still live as if you are chained to a fixed timeline? Have you ever had the experience of thinking of someone and that person calls? Or having a premonition about something that hasn't happened yet and it comes true? These are not accidents or coincidences. They are glimpses of how consciousness operates outside conventional temporal limitations. Think of all the times you've said, "If I could go back in time," or "If I knew then what I know today." What if I told you that you can? Not with a time machine, but with something much more powerful, the ability to rewrite the meaning of the past and pre-experience the future in the quantum now. When you revisit a painful memory and extract wisdom and strength from it instead of trauma and limitation, you are literally altering how that past experience influences your present quantum field. When you allow yourself to feel the desired future reality with such intensity as if it already exists, you are creating what physicists call retrocausality. The future begins to organize the present so that it can exist. If this is expanding your perception of the possible, type time in the comments. Declare your freedom from temporal prison. There is a particularly insidious belief that keeps millions trapped. The idea that you need to deserve before you receive. This concept of deserving is a social construct, not a quantum law. The quantum field does not judge, does not evaluate, does not decide if you are worthy. It simply responds to the frequency you emit. When you believe you need to suffer to deserve, work to exhaustion to be entitled, sacrifice your joy to earn cosmic points, you are operating from an outdated Newtonian model of linear cause and effect. Quantically speaking, you can access any state, any reality, at any time simply by aligning your frequency with it. Have you noticed how some people seem to receive blessings with apparent effortlessness, while others struggle tirelessly and remain in the same place? The difference is not in deserving. It is in presupposition. Think of that person you know who always assumes things will work out for them, and they usually do. Now think of that other person who is always preparing for the worst, and often finds it. Neither of them is being rewarded or punished. Both are simply reaping the fruits of their quantum presuppositions. The cosmic fabric of potentials does not distinguish between deserved and undeserved threads. All threads are equally available. Your needle of consciousness can choose anyone. The only question is, do you trust it enough to choose the golden threads, even when the voice of conditioning says you should settle for the gray ones? Take a deep breath again. Feel your chest expand beyond the limits of deserving. You don't have to earn the right to breathe. You simply breathe. Quantum abundance operates on the same principle. The illusion of separation is perhaps the most fundamental of all mental prisons. You have been taught that you are an isolated individual, struggling alone in an indifferent or even hostile universe. But quantum entanglement, that phenomenon Einstein called spooky action at a distance, reveals a radically different truth. Everything is connected at a fundamental level. When scientists managed to entangle two diamonds, macroscopic objects, they weren't just performing an impressive laboratory trick. They were demonstrating that separation is a perceptual illusion, not a fundamental reality. If two diamonds can be instantly connected across space, what does that say about you and the infinite field of possibilities around you? Have you ever had the experience of knowing someone you love was in trouble, even though they were miles away? Or feeling a shift in the energy of an environment before anything visible happened? These moments are not anomalies. They are glimpses of your true entangled nature. Think about how different your life would be if you truly trusted that you are not alone, that you are perpetually connected to an infinite network of support and possibilities. Every time you feel isolated, abandoned, left to fend for yourself, you are denying the fundamental quantum reality of entanglement. You are using your needle of light to weave an experience of separation into the cosmic fabric that is, by nature, totally interconnected. It's like being in an ocean and dying of thirst because you believe you are a separate drop. Real quantum trust means knowing, not just intellectually, but viscerally, that you are the ocean experiencing itself as a drop. When this understanding takes root, strange things begin to happen. Resources appear from unexpected sources. The right people show up at the exact moment. Solutions emerge from places you never would have looked. It's not magic, it's quantum entanglement in action. If you are ready to dissolve the illusion of separation, like this video now, let this simple gesture be your declaration of quantum interdependence. The fear of personal power is a paradox that traps many spiritual seekers. You want change, but you fear the responsibility of being the agent of that change. You wish to manifest a better reality, but you recoil from the implication that you co-created the current reality. This fear is not irrational. It is existentially terrifying to realize that you are not a victim of circumstances, but an unconscious architect of your experience. But here's what fear doesn't want you to know. Personal quantum power is not about guilt for the past. It's about possibility for the future. When you accept that your consciousness influences the quantum field, you are not taking the blame for every bad thing that happened. You are taking on the capacity to influence what will happen. How many times have you minimized a powerful intuition because it seemed too big to be true? Or ignored a creative impulse because who are you to have such grand ideas? Think of that moment when you had a clear vision of what you could create, but immediately dismissed it as impossible fantasy. This act of dismissal is not humility, it is quantum sabotage. You are literally collapsing waves of extraordinary potential into particles of mediocrity. Personal quantum power is not arrogance. It is alignment with the fundamental truth that your consciousness is an aspect of the universal conscious field. When ancient spiritual traditions say, Tat Tvam Asi, thou art that, they are not making metaphorical poetry. They are declaring a quantum fact. You are the universe experiencing itself subjectively. Your personal power is universal power focused through the lens of your individual consciousness. Denying this power is not humility, it is cosmic waste. Place your hands on your heart again. Feel the power pulsing there. This is not just your biological heart, it is a quantum portal. Every beat is transmitting information to the field. Are you choosing to transmit fear and smallness or trust and expansion? Now, I will share with you the 3-step method to activate your quantum trust. These are not complicated esoteric steps. They are precise actions based on verifiable quantum principles. First step, accept the probabilistic nature of reality. This means stopping the fight against uncertainty and starting to see it as a field of infinite possibilities. When you wake up in the morning, instead of assuming the day will be like all the others, pause for 30 seconds. Breathe deeply and tell yourself, today exists in quantum superposition. Multiple versions of this day exist simultaneously. I choose to observe the most expansive version. This is not empty positive thinking. It is a practice of conscious quantum observation. For example, imagine you have an important meeting today. Instead of mentally rehearsing all the failure scenarios, which keeps those probabilities active, you consciously choose to observe the potential for extraordinary success. You are not denying that failure is possible. You are choosing which possibility to collapse into reality through your focused observation. Practice this with small things first. Before checking your email, pause and choose to observe the possibility of good news. Before answering the phone, choose to observe the possibility of an enriching conversation. You will be surprised how often reality aligns with your chosen observation. Second step, extract the quantum gift from every experience. Every event, especially challenging ones, contains multiple layers of meaning and potential. Most people get stuck in the superficial layer, the obvious and usually negative interpretation. But quantically, every experience exists in a superposition of meanings, until you choose which one to observe and solidify. When something seemingly negative happens, instead of immediately labeling it as a problem, ask, what gift is hidden here that I haven't observed yet? For example, you lose your job. The superficial interpretation is loss, insecurity, failure. But what if you choose to observe the quantum gift? Perhaps it's liberation from an environment that was limiting your growth. Perhaps it's the necessary impulse to finally start that project of your own. Perhaps it's the opportunity to completely redefine your relationship with work and value. When you extract the gift, you are not being naively optimistic. You are actively choosing which aspect of the multidimensional experience you will solidify through your observation. This changes everything. The person who lost their job and saw tragedy manifests more tragedy. The person who lost their job and saw opportunity manifests opportunity. It's not magical thinking. It's selective collapse of the wave function. Third step, consistently redirect your quantum focus. Your attention is the most precious quantum resource you possess. Where you consistently focus, you create quantum density. This is why obsessive worries tend to materialize. They receive so much focused attention that they gain enough quantum mass to manifest. Conscious redirection means taking that same power of focus and intentionally pointing it. When you catch yourself focusing on what you don't want, don't fight the thought. That only adds more energy to it. Instead, gently redirect to what you do want. For example, you are worried about debt. Instead of trying not to think about debt, which is quantically impossible, redirect to abundance. But here's the secret. Don't just think about abstract abundance. Focus on specific, sensory, emotional abundance. How does it feel to have all bills paid? What is the sensation of seeing a growing positive balance? What is the lightness in your body when financial pressure dissolves? This specific sensory focus creates what physicists call quantum coherence. Your brain waves, your heart waves, your cellular waves all begin to vibrate in harmony with this reality. And when you maintain this coherence consistently, not for minutes, but for days and weeks, the quantum field has no choice but to respond. The cosmic fabric of potentials begins to reorganize its threads to match the pattern you are sustaining with your needle of consciousness. The journey of quantum trust is not a path of accumulation. It is a path of remembrance. You are not learning something new. You are unlearning the limitations that have covered your true quantum nature. Every time you choose to trust instead of doubt, every time you observe possibility instead of limitation, every time you act from abundance instead of scarcity, you are removing another layer of Newtonian conditioning. Beneath these layers is what has always been there. A quantum being living in a quantum universe, capable of interactions that seem magical only because we have forgotten that they are natural. The Hermetic principle reminds us, the all is mind, the universe is mental. This is not antiquated mysticism. It is a precise description of the fundamental nature of reality that quantum physics is rediscovering. Your thoughts are not irrelevant byproducts of chemical reactions. They are quantum events that influence the field. Your emotions are not just private sensations. They are electromagnetic transmissions that inform the universe about what kind of reality you are ready to experience. Let me tell you about the strange phenomena that begin to happen when quantum trust takes root. First, synchronicities multiply exponentially. You think of someone, and they appear. You need specific information, and it arises from an unexpected source. You have a question, and the answer appears in a casual conversation, a book that falls off the shelf, a song on the radio. This is not the universe sending mystical signals. It is your personal quantum field entangled with the universal field, creating non-local correlations. Second, time begins to behave elastically. You have an hour to do something that would normally take 3, and, inexplicably, you succeed. Or you are late for an important appointment and, somehow, arrive on time despite all delays. This is not literal temporal distortion. It is your consciousness navigating between parallel timelines, always choosing the one that aligns with your intention. Third, resources appear in ways that defy the linear logic of cause and effect. Money arrives from forgotten sources. Opportunities arise from connections that seemed irrelevant. Solutions emerge from problems that seemed insurmountable. This is not luck or coincidence. It is the quantum field reorganizing probabilities in response to your sustained trust. But here's what no one tells you about quantum trust. It requires existential courage. Not the courage to do risky things, but the courage to question everything you thought you knew about how reality works. The courage to act based on possibility when all evidence points to limitation. The courage to hold the vision when the material world does not yet reflect it. The courage to trust the invisible more than the visible. This is not blind faith. It is faith informed by the most fundamental principles that science has discovered about the nature of reality. When you understand that matter is mostly empty space, that particles are actually waves of probability, that observation determines the outcome, that entanglement connects everything, quantum trust is not a leap of faith. It is a logical alignment with fundamental truth. Take a deep breath once more. Feel every cell of your body vibrating with quantum potential. You are not a solid object, navigating a world of solid objects. You are a field of consciousness, interacting with other fields in an infinite dance of possibilities. Every breath is an opportunity to choose which reality to observe. Every heartbeat is a quantum transmission informing the universe about who you choose to be. Every thought is a quantum event, collapsing infinite potentials into specific experience. The cosmic fabric of potentials is always present, always responsive, always waiting for your needle of consciousness, to choose which threads to weave into the tapestry of your life. The question has never been whether you have the power. The question has always been whether you trust it enough to use it. There is a reason why most people never experience the extraordinary quantum phenomena we are discussing. It is not because they are special or reserved for a chosen few. It is because real quantum trust requires a psychological death and rebirth. The death of identity as a victim of circumstances. The rebirth as a conscious co-creator. Most prefer the comfort of known limitation to the terror of unlimited possibility. It is easier to blame the world, the government, the economy, karma, than to accept that you have actively participated in creating your reality through every observation, every expectation, every presupposition. But you who have come this far, you who are feeling something stir within you as you absorb these words, you are ready for this death and rebirth. You are ready to let go of the story of limitation and embrace the quantum truth of your limitless nature. Trust the field, and the field will trust you. This is not just a beautiful phrase. It is a literal description of how quantum reality operates. When you trust, you emit coherence. When you emit coherence, the field responds with coherence. When you doubt, you emit decoherence. When you emit decoherence, the field responds with chaos and unpredictability. It is a perpetual quantum feedback loop. You receive what you transmit, not as punishment or reward, but as simple physics. Your consciousness is the quantum laboratory where all experiences are first created before manifesting in the physical world. Every emotional state you cultivate, every thought you sustain, every visualization you hold is a quantum experiment determining what kind of reality you will experience. The improbable is just the unobserved. Everything that seems impossible to you is simply something you have never directed your focused quantum observation enough to collapse into reality. The implications of this are dizzying. It means that poverty is not an economic condition. It is a quantum frequency. Illness is not just a biological disorder. It is quantum decoherence. Loneliness is not an absence of people. It is a misalignment with fundamental entanglement. This does not mean that these challenges are not real or that they are your fault. It means that they are changeable at a more fundamental level than conventional approaches recognize. When you change your quantum frequency, when you restore coherence, when you realign with entanglement, external reality has no choice but to reorganize itself to match, not instantly, usually. The physical world has inertia, but inevitably, inexorably, what you sustain internally with sufficient quantum trust must manifest externally. Now, let me be brutally honest about something. Everything I've shared with you today, every principle, every practice, every promise, is useless if you don't do the one thing that matters. Trust. Not trust intellectually. Not trust when it's convenient. Not trust when the evidence supports it, but trust quantically. Trust with every fiber of your being. Trust when everything seems to be falling apart. Trust when logic says it's impossible. Trust when fear screams at you to stop. Trust when the whole world says you are delusional. Because it is in that moment, at that point of total trust, beyond all reason, that quantum magic happens. That's when the impossible becomes inevitable. That's when the quantum field has no choice but to bend to your focused will. You don't manifest what you want. You manifest who you are. And who you are, fundamentally, is determined by what you trust to be true about the nature of reality and your place in it. If you trust that you are a limited material being in an indifferent mechanical universe, you manifest limitation and indifference. If you trust that you are a conscious expression of an infinite and responsive quantum field, you manifest infinitude and responsiveness. The choice has always been yours. The choice will always be yours. The field is waiting. The cosmic fabric of potentials is vibrating with anticipation. Your needle of consciousness is ready. The only question is, will you trust enough to weave the extraordinary reality that is waiting to be born through you? If something in this video touched that place within you that always knew there was more, that always suspected reality was more malleable than they said, do 3 things now. First, like this video as a commitment to your quantum journey. Second, comment a word that captures what you are ready to manifest. Abundance, love, health, purpose, any word that resonates. Let that word be your quantum declaration to the field. Third, subscribe to the channel and activate notifications. Not because I need the numbers, but because you need the consistent reminder that you are not alone on this journey of quantum awakening. Every video is an opportunity to strengthen your trust, fine-tune your frequency, clarify your vision. Remember, when you truly trust quantum physics, strange things happen. But they only seem strange because you have been conditioned to expect limitation. In truth, they are perfectly natural. They are simply what happens when a quantum being finally stops pretending to be Newtonian. They are what happens when you stop fighting the fundamental nature of reality and start dancing with it. They are what happens when you trust the field and the field inevitably, magnificently, miraculously trusts you back. The universe is waiting for your next observation. Choose wisely, choose courageously, choose quantically.